Yo, what is going on, guys? First time, I'm first time making a video in a while, like 2 weeks or so, because there's nothing really to make videos about. But I put together my top 10 receiver targets that I think we should go after. Which I don't know. Maybe you guys think it's like a different, realistic approach, but at number 10, I'm gonna start off with Jakobi Meyers. Jakobi Meyers is a very talented receiver. He's another Belichick product where any receiver that they find that plays quarterback and plays receiver is always just good for some reason. And market value, he's listed around for according to Spot Track. They have him listed for 4 years, $50 million, which is reasonable for his production. He's put up, I think it was 1,000 yards this year. I'm not exactly sure, but the pros that he has, I have here. I was watching some film on him. He has very good size, very good hands. He catches almost everything. He's a very good route runner. He works in all three levels of the route tree. He creates a lot of separation with physical releases, and he's a long-term player. He's very young and talented. But the cons I have is because he's a Belichick product. Most Belichick players are really good with their team, besides maybe Tom Brady and Gronkowski. I guess the Bucks wasn't all that bad, but I don't really know too many like Belichick guys that were like really successful, like Jakobi Meyers level at least. Because there's like I'm trying to think who was the one. I think it was Trent Brown was one, and oh man, who was the there was somebody else that signed a lot of money and he wasn't very good. Like the same thing goes with coaches too. Like they don't like really perform a lot, but I have him at 10 just because I don't think the Giants would really go after him, but I do think they would be interested in the market for a receiver. I don't know if he's a number one receiver. He seems more of a number two to me. And if you really want a number two, I think we stick with Isaiah Hodgins or maybe sign somebody, but maybe a little cheaper for number two. This is more of like a number one receiver type deal. At number 9, we got Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks was rumored a lot during the season that we liked Brandin Cooks. We were talking to the Texans. I think uh they were in talks. They were, I think, yeah, where it was like a second round pick the Texans wanted. And for where Brandin Cooks' cap hit is, which I have right here, they had it on. Oh no, that was the market value. I have his remaining contract, which is really expensive, and the amount of holes we have for the type. And he's a great receiver, but he's not like a superstar receiver that's going to elevate maybe Daniel Jones' play all that much. He will elevate it a little bit, but he's not really that much. I think his value is third to like a fifth round pick, maybe like a third, fourth, or a fifth round pick. Not all together, maybe like separately, but I don't think he's going to be that much. I have him at 9 just because of his contract, but I do think he'd be a good fit with the team. Pros, he's very fast. He's got really solid hands. He's a great outside receiver. He's proven to be number one. Did in New Orleans for a little bit before Michael Thomas. And then he did it with the Patriots and Rams, and then he was doing it with the Texans. With Deshaun Watson he played really good with, and he's been pretty good with pretty bad quarterbacks. And he's kind of small, and his contract's pretty big. That's all I really have for cons. There's not really much I found other than that. We get to number 8. OBJ. I know it's a fan favorite, and it might not be the most reasonable. To me, this is more of a number 2 type option than a number 1. It's just another good receiver, and OBJ is not the same receiver as he was with the first time he was here, a superstar, top 5 receiver in the league. He's just kind of above average now, or just maybe good middle of the pack receiver. He doesn't really do much like amazing anymore. The pros I have, or he's a veteran, experienced, potential leader for young guys. Maybe that we draft a receiver because we don't have to trade anything for OBJ free agent. Good route runner still. Always had great hands. Cons injury history could be seen as a number 2 than a number 1, like I just said. Character issues. I'm not really concerned with character issues, but I know most people are, so I put it on there. And his age, so it's a short-term deal. I think if he did sign this contract, it'd probably be his last contract in the NFL. I'm sure maybe you try to keep playing, but I think he'd be done after that. I think his time's coming up soon, so why not finish in New York? He's a fan favorite. I wouldn't be too upset with this deal. I think it would be a pretty good deal to bring him back. Good receiver still. Was really productive with the Rams before his ACL tear at Super Bowl. He probably would have won Super Bowl MVP. He was the best receiver in that game. As we get to slide 4. DeAndre Hopkins, I see as another great trade, but the only problem with that is cap space again, which we do have the third most cap space before we have $44 million cap space before we do any cuts and maybe trades or whatever we do. I think it's really just going to cost a second round pick or maybe like a third and a couple more, 2 3s. Who knows? Something around that area. But his contract is huge. He got $30 million in 2023 upcoming year. The next year after that, 26 million, and he's pretty old. I mean, I think he's like 32. Same with Odell Beckham. They're not really young receivers anymore. Actually, I'm not sure. Hold on, let me check. Pretty sure he's around 31 or 32, or maybe even younger. Not DeAndre Ayton. Oh, he's only 30 years old, but he's turning 31, so that's pretty much the same. His size is very good, 6'1", 212 pounds. Well, he's always been a good runner. He's always had amazing hands. The guy's got ginormous hands. You've seen the picture. I mean, I think it was like quadruple XL, like large gloves. I don't really know. But he's a proven number one, top 10 receiver when healthy. I think he'd be obviously a great addition. Reason why I have it so low is just because of the contract. If the contract wasn't so big, or if we didn't have so many holes where we could afford a deal like this, I think it would definitely be way higher than what this is, especially at his age. So I have him at number 7. This is just my rankings. This isn't like anything else I see. This is like my stuff. I know you guys might have like different rankings than me. That's fine. Let me know what your rankings would be so far, like in the comments, like if there's anything you would change so far, or like after the video's done. So number 6, I got Jackson Smith-Njigba, or JSN. His name confuses me sometimes. He's a lot like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has developed to play the outside this year a little bit. Rookie year, really a slot guy. That's where he works his best stuff. I have him as a projected late first, early second. That's my projection. I know there's maybe like people might think he's a mid first round guy, or just not even a first round pick at all. I have him as late first, early second, maybe mid second. Who knows? I think that's where he's going to go. He's very. I wouldn't think this guy goes out of the first round just because of how much like I had the pros here. Really good route running. His body control is really good too. His hands and ball skills, the way he's able to just make moves right after he catches it, run out the catch is very good. Like I just said, works his magic inside the slot. Very good slot wide receiver. But he lacks some explosiveness, but he's not like completely lacking explosiveness. He is an explosive player at times, but sometimes he lacks explosiveness in different areas. Needs to develop outside, like I just said. Works all his magic inside. That's where he's the best at. He only had 1 season of production in college, and that might worry some people if his injury. I don't think he doesn't have much of an injury history. I don't know if he was how injured he really was. If he was like saving himself for the not combine, but for the NFL, I think that's what his plan was. Maybe he didn't play in their playoff games, so that could be the reason. Yeah. So other than that, I mean, he's really a good player. I wouldn't be too mad with him either. I think if you sign a guy like OBJ, like you could bring this guy in because you could trade up in the second round if he falls there. That's where I would think he would go. And I got number 5. Zay Flowers is one of my favorite receivers in this draft. He might be a little small, but I have him as a late first to mid second round pick. And you might think it's a little weird to say like he could go from a first round pick to a mid second. I think the way the draft kind of works, say if Jason does fall to the second round, or like a guy like Rashee Rice, they might be ranked ahead of him, and he might get picked in the mid second. But I also think he could be a first round pick. He reminds me of a little bit of Tyler Lockett. He could be. I think he's got the potential to be a really good receiver. He's an electric player I could have here. He could play. He's a 3-level receiver threat. He could do midfield, deep field, and he could play the short game. I think he really would fit this scheme. He's super fast. He's really good after the catch. A little bit. I wouldn't say like he's like going to be like Tyreek Hill, but he gives me shades of him. I wouldn't say that's his ceiling. I don't think he'll be as good as Tyreek Hill because it's really hard to be good. Maybe he could be. I don't know because Tyreek Hill was a 5th round pick, so you never know how these guys are going to be. But super fast. But the only cons I really have on him, he has inconsistent hands, but that's fixable. You can't teach speed. It's lack of mass and height. He's not very big, as I have here, 5'11", 172. Height's not as big of an issue, even though it's at 5'11", it's not like 6'3" or whatever. But his weight, he might get injured in the NFL, but you always could put on maybe like, I could see him put on like 10 pounds or so. And yeah, pretty much that's all you really have to have on Zay Flowers. It's just a really good receiver. And I'd be happy if we drafted him in the first round. I wouldn't be bad with it at all. I think he has star potential, and he's a very fast receiver. He's got the talent, speed, and route running, and he would fit our scheme. Because the way we kind of work the short, middle, and we didn't really work the deep because we couldn't really do deep passes because of reason the O-line being atrocious. I do think we could go O-line in the first round, but that's it for a different video. I kind of had this messed up. At 4, we got Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is one of my favorite. Rashee Rice is my favorite receivers out of SMU. Not very known college to most people, but he's a very good receiver. Put up really productive numbers this year, senior season. He's got very good ball skills. He's very athletic for his size. He's very aggressive. I think more like the lines of like AJ Brown aggressiveness. AJ Brown's a really aggressive player. Not comparing him to AJ Brown, but he could be compared. He makes defenders miss in space, kind of like a little bit like Debo does. He kind of just like breaks tackles and stuff. He's very good after the catch, consistent development through his time in college. Like, each year he got really good. And like he wasn't like a star like he was this year, but each year he got better and better at each thing he wasn't that good at. And his size, like I said, as a pro, you need that size on the outside receiver because that's what we need. Wonder Robinson, once he comes back, you saw a lot what they do with Richie James, a lot of like pre-snap motions and like working really short games. So you don't really have to worry about the slot receiver game. But I wouldn't be surprised if they could bring back like rotational kind of like slot receiver thing. But yeah, and then he just really needs to acclimate to a more diverse route tree. He doesn't really do much because I guess the way SMU's like scheme is, maybe a pro style offense that could afford him less space and developing consistency with drops again, like Zay Flowers. That's a problem sometimes with receivers in college, but sometimes it might not translate to the NFL. I remember, Jamar Chase didn't really have drop issues in college, but got knocked on for dropping preseason catches. Like, guy didn't play a game for a year, and like everybody was like making fun of him. Now he's like a top receiver in the NFL. So, see how that worked out for the Bengals. We're obviously not going to get a guy like that, but we could never know. Justin Jefferson was not an early pick. And my number 4 might be a surprise. Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston, he's a very good receiver, but I don't think he's the best. And this is just my opinion. He is very big and very fast for his size. He's very explosive, and he's very good in the short area. But he struggles against press coverage at times. Most of the time, when he did get press coverage, he struggled to get past use his physicality to get past it and then get separation most of the time. Once to get past it, there wasn't enough time to throw in the ball or was throwing somebody else. But he can improve a little bit in the run game. I'm not really going to be too concerned about receivers that can't really block all that well because I don't really expect the receiver to, but it's nice when they can, like Isaiah Hodgins, for example. He could really block really good for a receiver. And the number 3 spot, probably, this is a guy I would think he's really similar to Calvin Ridley. Very good route runner. He's not the fastest guy for 6 foot 175, but a little bit like Stephon Diggs, where he's also not the fastest, but his route running makes up for the lack of speed. And he's only 175, 6 foot. That's something to be a little concerned about size. Again, it's not really it's not the best receiver class, but there's like good ones that have a big upside. Of course, it's not like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Drake London last year. It's not, or like the Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. It's very hard to find receivers like that a lot, but I think he's a very good receiver. A lot like Calvin Ridley. Separation comes consistently, always getting open on all levels, short, medium, and deep. The other thing we need, and he's very crafty, release packages, and works at the top of the routes. Proven weapon at high volume target because he played with Kenny Pickett in Pitt, and then he transferred to USC with Caleb Williams, where he was the number 1 receiver twice and had 2 really good seasons. He had a better season in Pitt because I think he was injured this year. I forgot. I don't know what the injury exactly was, but he was injured this year, so his production was a little down. But He doesn't have true top shelf speed, like I just said. They're really great after the catch, so that could develop in the NFL. But physicality, not very great because of his size. But Devontae Smith, very similar also to a guy like Jordan Addison. They're like the same size. So Devontae Smith was also knocked on this stuff too. It's kind of similar, but except Devontae Smith's a lot faster. Um, Drops were significant issues at Pittsburgh, and he kind of fixed it a little bit at USC. But maybe that could be a little bit of a scare coming back to the NFL because NFL level is a lot different in college. But you'll see how it goes, I guess. As we get to number 2, maybe this is a debatable one for my number 1 spot. But Brandin Aiyuk, I saw the other day he liked the picture of him being a jersey swap as the Giants. Doesn't really mean anything, but you never know. I have his trade value as a first round pick and maybe some late round picks. Maybe I don't know how that would actually exactly work. Maybe they only take the first round pick, but I expect him to get like Christian Kirk money because Christian Kirk or who was another guy? Yeah. Oh wait, I didn't get to him yet. But Christian Kirk, he's very productive. Don't get me wrong, but when he got that contract, he got laughed at. He got Jaguars, not him, but the Jaguars got laughed at. They got mocked for an overpay. But he was very productive. So if he's a better player than Christian Kirk, which I think he is, except the only reason why his numbers were more productive is because he's like, there's McCaffrey, there's Kittle, there's Debo, like there's a lot of good players. Hold on 1 second. Anyways, like there's a lot of good players in that scheme. So, and he had like 3 different I think he had Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, and Trey Lance. So that's very hard for a receiver to put up those type of numbers and make the playoffs. I think he'd be a great trade for us. I love his route running. He's athletic. He might be a little more athletic than Deebo Samuel. You saw a couple plays where he hurdles over people and scores touchdowns. Very shifty. He's got solid hands. He owns Trayvon Diggs, as we saw in the playoffs. He's a fantastic route runner. But the only cons I have, not really anything significant. He's going to need a payday, like I just said. Christian Kirk got a contract. He hasn't played much outside throughout his career, but he played outside when Debo got hurt. So I'm excited to see what will do if he is on a team like the Giants, where he is going to be the outside guy. He could be just a number 2 receiver, but I think he could flourish into a number 1. He's got the potential. He's got the talent. Physicality, he's not like the most physical receiver. He's more shifty. Kind of uses his legs more than his arms. At times he kind of just waits for the ball to come to him. He's not very aggressive like Rashee Rice. Even though he's in college, but Rashee Rice will come to the ball every time. He'll jump in the air and play that every time. He sometimes waits there and lets it come to him, but sometimes he'll go to the ball. Not really concerned with that either. Very coachable. You could teach that. You can't really teach athleticism and speed and explosive and shiftiness. So I really like Brandin Aiyuk. It's very debatable for my number 1 spot, but number 1 spot, it kind of just a little easier just because it's T. Higgins. T. Higgins is probably what, even though this isn't maybe the most realistic to some, but T. Higgins is going to need to be paid, and the Bengals are going to have to probably pay. They're going to pay Joe Burrow. They got some other things to pay, like defensive players, and I think that's more important a little bit. T. Higgins, I'm not saying some things are more important than T. Higgins, but a number 2 receiver or you're starting defensive linebackers and stuff, you're going to need that more. I think because you got Tyler Boyd still. Maybe they'll do something with Tyler Boyd's contract, then pay T. Higgins. But T. Higgins is going to get. I got his value, maybe a first and a third round pick, or maybe 2 third round picks. I think it's crazy to think, okay, well maybe Odell Beckham was only traded for a first and a third, and I forgot what other pick it was. But also that was like a 15th pick of draft, and it was Dexter Lawrence. Thank you, Nick Gellman, for that. It was sucks that we traded Odell, but it kind of worked out for the best. But his contract remaining 2023 is really cheap. So if we give him an extension, the cap wouldn't hit this year, it would hit the next year. So we wouldn't really have to worry about too much of the cap space until the next season, which we have maybe a little more flexible, depending on what we maybe pay Daniel Jones. I don't know what they're going to do that yet. So I wouldn't be too concerned about receivers until we pay Daniel Jones, or I hope we do. Some people might not agree with me. I did a lot of polls on YouTube lately. I'm asking guys what receivers would you rather have, or quarterbacks, or I think it was something else. But anyways, like I'm saying, also according to Spot Track, his annual value will be around $20 million, in which I think that's agreeable. I think the type of receiver he is, he's a very good receiver, and I think he even though for good reason the game got canceled when he played Buffalo for DeMar Hamlin. That's another game that kind of counts as like didn't really count. And he missed like 4 or 5 games, and he put up like almost 1,100 yards. He's a very good player. He really stepped up when Jamar Chase was injured. But we all knew he's a proven number one, even though he's a number 2 receiver. But he's definitely a number 1 receiver. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. He's big. He's instantly in this offense our best, probably maybe our best like threat in the passing game, or is and he's got amazing hands. He makes it really tough catches contestantly. He wins every one-on-one ball. Even you saw in the championship game where he made that really nice one-on-one ball catch. He didn't even jump or anything. He's just that tall and has great hands. He uses his huge frame he's a very smart player. He uses his frame to like his size to shield out defenders. He's a big play receiver, best downfield. He's not really. I mean, he's a big play receiver, short, medium, but he's best when he's a deep ball receiver. Daniel Jones has statistics where he is probably one of the better deep ball passing quarterbacks. He's really good for back shoulder passes. His body control is very good, and he's a very good vertical threat. Fits our offense. He's not again blocking doesn't really matter all too much, but the film I watched kind of struggles sometimes with the blocking. Not really too worried about that either. I'm more worried if he could catch the ball because we don't really have something like that. He's an average route runner, but not really concerned about that either. As long as you could catch, he gets separation. He's not like Kenny Galladay, slow and bad. He can't catch. I'm not worried about him being like Kenny Galladay because you know what he could do. He isn't fluky all day one-on-one catches where that's all of his yards. He's not as effective as the short level for level 1 catches as he is for deep balls and medium catches. He's better in that area. I'd rather him be better in that area in the short game. Wan'Dale Robinson is probably the short game target. And probably running back, maybe Saquon Barkley. I hope he comes back. If you have T. Higgins, Barkley, and maybe sign a guy like Hayden Hurst at tight end, your offense is instantly one of the better offensive weapons. And you get the O-line fix, of course. Anyways, make sure you like this video. This video took me a long time. I'm sorry it was a little longer than most of my videos. I don't like it to be too long. Make sure leave a like and subscribe. This took me a while to look up all this stuff and get all these statistics down and I watched film on all these receivers just so I could get the pros and cons. So I didn't just talking them ass. So make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Possibly talk about pro days. I do have my list of top 10 pro day players, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.